Rainwood has quite a few flora and faunas, so in today's video I'll be ranking them in a very subjective list in terms of their position in the ecosystem, but also how good they are at surviving. So for example, the player Slugcat is kind of low on the ecosystem ranking, but then some Slugcats have adaptations to make surviving much easier, which would move them up the ranking. I'm mainly going to be using lore and implications, so I might assume quite a few things. As said before, this list is very subjective, and you will probably disagree with placements. So feel free to share your opinions in the comments. Okay, let's get started. At the bottom of the ranking is the background plants. Now technically these plants could be predators and like destroy the ecosystem for all we know, but there's no way of telling that since they have no gameplay. Also, the video will literally double in length if I decide to try and actually rank these. Also, plants are pretty boring. Glowweed is a plant that grows underwater. It doesn't have any creature defense and I doubt it has seeds. So it's basically just a dumb plant saying like, oh, come eat me. So Jetfish will just munch on it. It does look pretty cool though. Slime Mold is the same situation as Glowweed, where it just glows and doesn't have an incentive for letting creatures eat it. It is slightly higher on the ranking than Glowweed, as it might grow in more confined spaces away from creatures that might want to eat it. Next on the ranking is ants. Yes, I'm ranking the background bugs. You can't stop me. These ants just crawl on surfaces and don't have wings, which makes them an easy target for frogs or something to eat them. Moths do have wings, but their bright colour makes them an easy target to see, especially in the dark shaded citadel where they like to hang out.
Wait, what? That's insane! That's a bug! That's a bug! That is a bug!
Dandelion Peaches follow the same logic as Slime Mold, where they just grow in reach of herbivores. They are higher as in real life dandelions use little parachutes with seeds attached to them to distribute their seeds, so these peaches would have incentive for a herbivore to try and eat them. Bubbleweed is the first weird ranking. I don't really know how to rank it, there'll be a lot of these. I'm assuming it stores oxygen for the lower half of its body for when the rain comes, which is a kind of cool defensive tactic, so I'll rank it based on that, even if it is my headcanon. Rock fleas are next, and they have the ability to jump and swim, which gives them a higher mobility over the ant. The iconic blue fruit dangles from the ceiling, which makes most herbivores unable to reach it. Flies are next. Another weird one. I put them higher than the other bugs, as they like to fly around carrion, which makes them quite a fast carnivore, at least in a rudimentary sense. Fireflies are slightly higher than flies, as they glow, meaning they're not too scared of natural predators. It could be argued that they don't eat the same way a fly does, so their spots might be interchangeable. Water glowworms swim around and glow. I don't know, they just seem pretty chill. Noodlefly eggs use the hanging from the ceiling method to keep the infant noodleflies inside safe. They are higher than blue fruit as their shells aren't penetrable by herbivores like Slugcat.
Let me in! Let me in!
Beetles are next. In real life, these insects are pretty big and armored, so they might have less predators than the other insects. Mushrooms are another really weird one, as they aren't really eaten by anything, so they get a high ranking. Only scavengers and slugcats seem to eat them, and do so because of their recreational effect, let's just say. I'm gonna headcanon that this effect is caused by insecticide, as real-life mushrooms can produce it. Scavengers and slugcats can use this effect to their advantage, as they are much bigger and not insects. Fun fact about grasshoppers in this game is that they use the same effect colour as the plants, meaning they use a form of camouflage which ranks them higher than most insects. The dragonfly bug does the same thing, but they don't seem to care about hiding, and in real life they eat other insects, so they're higher than the grasshopper. Batnip is yet another weird plant thingy. I guess batflies like pollinate it or something? I don't even know. Red swarmers are the last background bug on the rankings. They are much bulkier than most insects, and I'm pretty sure they munch all the other bugs. Eye flowers are next, the little guys from Outer Expanse and Undergrowth. They have the ability to see potential predators, and so can hide their eye using their hardened leaves to prevent attacks. The fact that they have both sight and reinforced leaves gives them a pretty high ranking. The classic batflies are next. They are pretty much mogged by everything else in the ecosystem. For the remainder of this video, I will not refer to mogging, I'm very sorry. Batflies are not without their defenses, as they can fly around and move around their hives very quickly. Neuronflies are in the same boat as batflies, except they have a few more adaptations to protect them. I think all creatures ignore the Neuronfly, but I think that's for gameplay reasons, as Hunter would be like 10 times more infuriating if a Squicada just robbed the green Neuron. They have the ability to propel themselves very easily in zero gravity, their intended environment. Plus sometimes they are defended by the Great Inspectors, which will aggro on any little rodent frolicking through the memory arrays trying to eat one. Wasps are next on the list, and you're probably wondering, I said there's no more background bugs, but this guy's a foreground bug, they're so cool. I mean, look how fast they move. Tell me this isn't a Chad insect. Realistically, they'll probably kill any other insect, and probably a couple of the higher entries on this ranking. I should probably mention that even though a creature has the potential to beat a creature higher on the list, I'm basing this ranking based on average performance of the creature type. Next is Bubble Fruit, which has a hardened shell which prevents potential threats from eating it too early. Once the rain starts, it will use the area flooding around it to disperse its seed. This makes it well adapted to the rain cycles of Rain World. Hazers are another really weird thing. The ones we see in game are the ones that have been beached when the flooding drains. They definitely swim around flooded areas during the rain. They're low in the ranking as they release smoke on death, which is a good defense, but they die in the process, so it's not actually that good. There's a couple of these kamikaze defenses, where the creature or plant dies, but I guess it deters creatures from trying to eat them in general, so it's kind of like a martyrdom thing. Lilypucks are another really weird one. I gave them this spot in the ranking as they float on the surface and have a massive spike underneath them, which probably deters a lot of aquatic creatures trying to eat them. Next is the small spider individual, as in one on its own. These guys do basically nothing on their own except to run away from everything. I do believe they can prey upon most background insects pretty easily, so they get this spot on the list. Infant Noodleflies are probably the tastiest creatures in Rain World. They have the ability to fly pretty quickly, and are constantly protected by their parent. Cherry bombs have the kamikaze defense, as they will emit sparks and loud noises when disturbed. This works actually pretty well, as most lizards are spooked by this. Beehives are very strange. I don't actually think they're a kamikaze defense, as the stalk may be the thing the bees are trying to defend. Or a creepy headcanon is that the bees inject whatever they attack with eggs, which will burrow out of their host in hibernation. But that's just a theory, a body horror theory. But headcanon aside, the bees are definitely a good defensive tactic, as they're really annoying to deal with, kamikaze or not. Karma flowers are definitely one of the most mysterious things in the game. I gave them a very high ranking for a little plant. Their seeds have the ability to germinate from the creature that ate them's corpse. But the crazy thing is they sprout outside the Great Cycle. If Slugcat dies with a karma flower eaten in one instance, and then returns to the spot it dies in another instance, the karma flower will be there. I feel like quantum germination is a very interesting distribution method, but on a quantity basis, it might be marginally better than normal germination. Lantern mice are next, the first substantial creature. These dumb idiots are basically bullied by the Shaded Citadel ecosystem, but they do have the ability to produce light which scares away spiders, even just momentarily, and dangle from ceilings which protects them from the bigger threats. Fan favourite Yeeks are next. Although they're very stupid and dumb, like the lantern mice, they have incredibly fast running speed and jump height. So they may be a creature bottom of the food chain, but they're not going to go down without a fight. Oh, never mind. Flash fruits are next, and I gave them this spot on the ranking, as their kamikaze defense is so strong, as it damages any photosensitive enemies instantly, which is lethal to any spider nearby.
Give me your money.
The weird Gooieducks are next. These strange creature, I don't even know what they are really, have a very interesting defense mechanism of smelling terribly, so basically anything with a nose is repulsed. I guess since slugcats live in outer expanse, they've learned to eat them because they're quite nourishing, even if they do smell awful. Small centipedes are a very desired snack for most creatures. However, they do have a non-lethal electric shock attack, and are sometimes guarded by their bigger centipede sisters. Small flying centipedes are next. And this is kind of a joke entry, but the small flying centipedes will probably take wing pretty quickly, meaning they'll have a slightly better defense quicker than a small centipede. Spore puffs are the highest ranking kamikaze defense plant, if you can even call them a plant. I don't even know if they should be on this ranking or not. Anyway, in the case that you do count them, they have incredibly strong pesticide, which will drop any insect basically instantly, making them very deadly to any dumb insect trying to eat them. Small jellyfish are next, and they are basically Lilypuck Prime, as any creature from below will get a massive electric shock, attempting to eat them. Vulture grubs have a very interesting defense mechanism by using a beam to cool down vultures if they are being disturbed. This is actually very successful for them, as most lizards will ignore vulture grubs even if they're dead. Egg bugs have it pretty rough, as creatures want to harm them and consume the half-dozen eggs on their back. However, egg bugs move incredibly fast, and so can avoid most predators, plus have spear-dodging reflex, which is pretty impressive. Grappling worms get the award for the world's chillest creature. Like, they just do not care. They are not attacked by most creatures, likely for gameplay reasons, as they are required to traverse the underhang. I rank them high as they're very adapted to the underhang environment. Jetfish have the same diet as slugcat. However, they're an aquatic-only species, which means they are immobilized on land. This makes them much more specialized and less versatile than slugcats. Plus, most aquatic carnivores just destroy jetfish. They don't really put up much of a fight. I ranked overseers pretty high, as they're very nimble and can avoid lots of attacks. This speed plus most creatures ignoring them gives them quite a high ranking. You may have noticed a new group of creatures forming. I call these ones the chill creatures. These are creatures that are completely ignored by other creatures, subsequently giving them quite a high rating. There's definitely a lot of these in the rankings, so you'll see more in the future. Snails are yet another weird one. I think that's my catchphrase now, saying things are weird. But snails become a chill creature by being purely obnoxious. Like most, if not all creatures literally just avoid them, and I think it's just because they're so annoying to be around. And even if a creature tries to eat one, its defense mechanism of releasing a shockwave is very powerful. Next creature is the token stalk. Like, I don't even know why this is on the list, but it is a chill creature, I guess. I've given it quite a high spot as it has third wall breaking powers in the form of arena unlocks, which could help them like break the cycle. I actually don't know. This is a stupid entry anyway. Next on the list is the red token safari stalk. I'm joking, I'm not going to rank the unlocked token stalks individually, that would be dumb. Slug pups are next, the first slugcat entry, and these little infant babies aren't very good at surviving on their own. They need a sort of parental figure to make them not die. Also, why is there so many orphan slug pups in Rainworld? Like, where are the parents? Next up is the Saint. This little green bean may be mean, I'm keeping that in, but it's weak as hell and can't throw a spear, and is the first Rainworld vegetarian. This entry also assumes that Saint's powers is all in the head, and Saint's just deluded, but omnipotent Saint might be higher on the list maybe. Popcorn plants are next, and these are the apex friendly plants in the game. They have a protective shell that protects against even the bone crushing rain. Their seeds are nourishing and encourage creatures to eat it. Like, what more can you want from a plant? Squicaders are next, everyone's favourite judgmental creature. Like jetfish, they're a competitor to the slugcat, but their mode of transport being air is much easier to catch prey like batflies rather than water. If you want to get stingy about it, the white squicaders are ranked higher than the black squicaders, solely because they give increased height. Monk is next, the first playable slugcat campaign, using Survivor as an average adult slugcat. Monk is weaker as they do less spear damage. You could argue that their attunement to the nature of the world gives them extra points, but its powers make death less punishing, and doesn't give them any bonus powers to help in cycle-to-cycle survival. Survivor is next. This is the default slugcat, so it's better than Monk, but worse than the other slugcats. Cabinet beasts are another chill creature, meaning they just sit in cabinets all day retaining memories of their former employers. Memory crypts, the place that they reside, is also heavily guarded by birds with scissors for beaks. Colecipedes are a formation of small spiders, now ready to destroy any opponent that comes near them. These things can tear you to shreds. However, since they are still made of small spiders, you can just throw a rock at them and they can't really do much. Cannon Gourmand is a weird one, but I'll explain it. Since the Gourmand we play in the campaign is technically a retelling to Slugpups as sort of a legendary figure, this entry is based on the real Gourmand's rank. We only know two concrete facts about the Gourmand. The fact that it's morbidly obese and can store lots of food in its belly. Its morbid obesity suggests it does have its meal crafting mechanic like it has in the campaign we play, as the Gourmand's fatness is likely a result of Gourmand's understanding of nutrition, and hence the ability to craft meals. It can also seemingly store multiple foods for the whole slugcat tribe to eat. My point is the fact that it's smarter than most slugcats, and has some sort of expanded stomach, which ranks it a tad bit higher than the average slugcat. Red leeches are quite small and don't really have the strength to pull down prey, but they are still carnivores and can still mess up anything that comes into the pool of water they inhabit. Slugpups from Inv's campaign are next, and these are a very deadly kamikaze creature, dropping an egg with the same properties as a singularity bomb on death. They are ranked low since they are still just regular slugpups but with a bomb attached to them. Iterator organisms are next, and this is a really weird one. Like cabinet beasts, they are just a chilled purposed organisms carrying out their tasks. I rank them a little bit higher as they do seem to have the capacity to evolve, as the mycelia found in 5 pebbles can be seen growing in undergrowth, suggesting it does have the capability of growing and spreading naturally. Blue leeches are next, and they are ranked higher than red leeches, as they can drag prey down much easier since they're bigger. Pole mimics are next, and have the ability to kill any unsuspecting creature. Their carnivorous diet gives them this spot in the ranking. Ah, dropwigs, a fan favourite creature. These little blighters do love to eat anything, but they are pretty weak themselves. If they do manage to literally get the drop on a creature, the chances of them winning are actually pretty low. But as with the pole mimic, they are still carnivorous. The jungle leech is the final leech on this ranking, and they have a very interesting ability not shared by any other creature. At least officially. These green things are actually parasites like their real life counterpart, able to drain nutrients from their host. They also possess the ability to not dry up on land and latch onto their target for extended periods of time, which makes them basically a deadlier version of the normal leech, and hence why they have such a high ranking. Big spiders are quite strange. They are very weak, only dying in one spear, and usually lose most encounters like dropwigs do, but they are still carnivorous and have deadly fangs. And they also have the ability to revive one another. This doesn't really help them most of the time as they're dragged off into dens when they're killed by other things. Mother spiders are next, and they're basically just a fat pregnant big spider, which will release mini spiders on death. This kamikaze feature just gives them a slightly higher ranking basically. My headcanon is that the small spiders actually form a symbiotic relationship with the mother spiders, and they're not actually its offspring. I think my interpretation makes the spiders a bit more interesting, and creepier, like why are they forming an alliance, stop it. Monster kelp is next, and this plant is pissed. It will basically just eat anything that comes near it, making it a very deadly creature. However, its immobility and pretty rare frequency in the world doesn't make it particularly dangerous to the other predators. An individual scavenger is pretty weak by itself. They are a bit beefier than the average slugcat, and are usually pretty good at throwing spears and using explosive weaponry. Strawberry lizards are the first lizard on the rankings. They are much frailer than their lizard sisters, even if they do have immunity to the cold and high mobility. They are also the only lizard that eats batflies, which kind of puts them down in the dietary rankings, I guess. Average size centipedes are a pretty powerful adversary, being able to deliver devastating shocks to anything that tries to eat it. Flying centipedes are next, and they're basically the big centipede but can fly, but they're slightly chiller I guess, so these spots are interchangeable. The final centipede for a while is the overgrown centipede, and they are just a more deadly version of your average centipede. Blue lizards are preyed upon by other lizards like the strawberries are, but they are capable of just destroying centipedes. And although being smaller and weaker, the blue lizards do have the ability to climb surfaces, which most lizards lack. Spitter spiders are next, and unlike their big spider counterparts, they have a ranged attack, in which they shoot tranquilizer maggots at their target. This makes them able to knock out and subsequently eat a lot of creatures, including ones above them on the ranking. However, they still have the same pitfalls as the big spider, being incredibly weak and can just be bitten by a lizard and it's all over. Black lizards are a weird one. They're basically just a blind pink lizard, which makes them just a worse pink lizard, I guess. Their hearing is the best out of any lizard, which does help them excel in their environment, which are the tunnels of filtration system. Individual yellow lizards are next. And similar to the black one, I guess they are just a pink lizard parallel. They are actually statistically weaker than a pink lizard, so that's why they're lower. Now it's the pink lizard's turn. They represent the average of all lizard species. Kind of similar to the survivor being the average of all slugcats. Lizards in general are ranked pretty high as they're carnivorous, and are kind of like the main antagonists of Rainworld, at least in a gameplay sense. Salamanders are next, and these are basically pink lizards but can swim and have a tongue. I guess they're not really lizards though, as salamanders. Adult noodleflies are pretty ferocious, being able to skewer most things with their massive needle. Even though they're very good at combat, they only attack creatures that threaten their children, which makes them not a Sigma creature, so they're lower on the ranking. White lizards use camouflage and their long tongues to catch prey off guard, making them a very deadly threat to unsuspecting prey. This does make them a Sigma creature. Eel lizards are like salamanders that are better at swimming basically. Instead of lurking in the water like the salamanders do, these two-footed freaks will try and swim down their prey. They also mainly hang out in the gutter, which is an area with loads of viscous water, which they can easily outswim their prey in. Inspectors are next, and like the adult noodlefly, they are very good at combat, but don't actively hunt creatures, they only fight when provoked. They are also pretty weak to piercing spears, which is an issue since their main adversaries are scavengers and slugcats. Stowaways are the perfect ambush predator. In fact, half the people that play this game probably don't even know what one is. They are ranked pretty high as they can use their harpoon appendages to ensnare most creatures very easily, before eating them whole. They are not ranked high as most cycles they're inactive and hibernating, meaning creatures most of the time will not encounter one. The iconic green lizard is next, and although they're pretty lazy and slow, their incredible tankiness deters most things that try and eat lizards normally. It also means they're immune to wormgrass and other lizard bites, so they'll technically win most territorial fights the lizards have. However, they're very slow and not very good at catching prey. The fish cat rivulet is next. It has triple the mobility of an average slug cat and can breathe underwater for like 4 times as long. Like, this thing is an absolute beast. It's not ranked higher as its diet is the same as normal slug cats, so it's still kind of in the same position in the food chain. Alright, we're now entering top dog territory. All of the next creatures are really good at survival in some way or another, and are the top brass of the rainwater ecosystem. Aquapedes are absolutely terrifying centipedes that lurk in water. They are good at swimming and have a concentrated shock attack. However, they have a similar issue to a black lizard, but they're only really good in their environment, in this case underwater pipes. If they tried to hunt creatures outside of water, it wouldn't go well for them. Fan favourite cyan lizards are next, and these things are relentless, being able to leap through the air for mobility or to catch prey. This makes them significantly more dangerous than their average lizard counterparts. Although they have this incredible mobility, they still have the same weaknesses as most lizards do, with the addition of them missing a jump and falling to their death. Caramel lizards are like the powered up version of a green lizard, being not only tanky and wormgrass immune, but can also do a massive leap attack and shoot disarming spit at its potential prey. It also has 2 extra legs, which could make it stronger, I don't know. Yellow lizards as a group are next. This means the whole yellow lizard squad at once. As a group, yellow lizards are much more deadly, being able to communicate various information to one another. I haven't been using Saint's timeline to measure how effective a species is at survival, but in this case I will, since the yellow lizards are the dominant species of Saint's timeline, likely being able to huddle together to produce warmth in cold times, and will likely share the prey they caught with each other so they don't all starve. The ever-feared vultures are next, and these are the first apex predator of Rainworld, I think. Almost all lizards and creatures fear them, and their ability to snatch up live or dead creatures really quickly is very dangerous. Even if a little rodent is wearing a vulture mask, that is enough to send lizards into a PTSD-induced panic, which is a testament to their place in the ecosystem as a top bird. Actually, fun fact, they're not even birds. During development they were called krakens because they have tentacles, so they're more like squids, I guess. The big men themselves, the ancients, are next. Now this is a really funny spot in the rankings. Now we don't know much about these mysterious benefactors, but for this ranking to make sense I'm going to assume they're humanoid and 3 times the size of Slugcat. Here's a little diagram for scale. Anyway, I believe ancients can win a fight with any creature below them on the ranking. Let's say they have spears and are partially armoured too, just for fairness. Like, I can imagine these forerunners just stabbing a vulture and winning. Maybe not unscathed though. Where would you put ancients on the ranking, assuming they're very humanoid? I'm interested to see what other people think. This basically boils down to which animal you could fight, but for Rainworld. Elite scavengers are next, and these are scavengers on crack. Being able to leap around with high mobility, possessing armoured masks that ward away lizards. Even though they don't do it in game, I'm still pissed about that. They also wield charged thunder spears, which are basically explosive spears but reusable. This makes elites much more dangerous than their brigand sisters. And yes, I do think an ancient would lose to an elite scavenger. Giant jellyfishes are next, and these are quite a strange creature, as they are mostly immobile. However, their skin is very durable, with the only weakness being the glowing pouch, I don't even know what it is, underneath the water. This pouch is guarded by electrical chains that will fry anything that tries to eat the glowing stuff inside. This makes it very well guarded, with the only creature being able to damage it is one with ranged attacks, or electrical immunity, which basically narrows down the things that are actually able to kill it to 2. One being a slugcat, which is able to throw spears underwater unlike scavengers, and the other one we'll talk about in a minute. They will also use their tendrils to actively push creatures into this electrical field, meaning they're probably carnivores too. I'm not even sure how electrical creatures feed, like I don't know how centipedes feed. Maybe the shock liquefies the creature's insides and they like drink it, which is kind of horrific, but that's just a headcanon. Everyone's favourite red slugcat, the hunter, is next. And unlike the average slugcat, this creature is a partially purposed organism. I know rivulet is probably too, but it's not stated. Anyway, the hunter has superior strength, with the ability to drop the average lizard in 2 spears. It also has the ability to store a spear on its back, which is some like purposed magic, I guess, which makes killing things a lot easier for it. Which it needs to do since it is a carnivore rather than an insectivore like the other slugcats. The fact that it's carnivorous shifts it up an echelon, plus the fact that it's really adept with spears, with the capability to best most other carnivores easily. Now Hunter does have an affliction which only gives it 21 cycles to live, but I'm gonna assume for this ranking that the affliction is not intentional, like a byproduct from the bioengineering no significant harassment did. The Miros birds are next, the appointed guardians of subterranean and memory crypts. These metallic birds are very vicious, being able to easily just grab enemies, either killing them instantly or completely immobilizing them. What's worse is they hunt in packs, meaning they're even more lethal since they work together. I mean barely, but it does make them more lethal. The mysterious firebugs inhabit Rubicon, and although they're a passive creature, if you annoy them, they'll begin trying to maul you to death, which is quite hard to prevent from happening as they have the mobility of an egg bug. Assuming that they are tangible, they also use the void as a breeding ground, as their eggs contain void fluid, and the spines on their back are capable of one-shotting lizards when thrown. Even if these guys do look cute, their affiliation with the Void Sea makes them incredibly dangerous. Top Dog Chieftain Scavenger is next, and this royal scavenger is basically an elite scavenger, but with armoured centipede plates, making it much more durable than the elites. It could also be a very intelligent scavenger, as it was able to get mark of communication from 5 pebbles, which means it travelled up the exterior. I'm basically saying that this one scavenger is a bit of a Chad. The nightmarish red lizard is the top dog of the lizard species. It is incredibly fast, tanky, and has the strongest bite in the world. Well, the second strongest bite in the world, but we'll get to that. It also possesses a very fast tongue, and also has the ability to disorientate its prey using spit. Overall, a very dangerous creature, with the ability to absolutely decimate anything below it in the ranking, most of the time. Train or hurricane lizards are next, and these are basically just overtuned versions of the red lizard. The angry sausage of the red centipede is very dangerous. With it being fully armoured, the ferocious red lizard won't be able to deal damage to it easily. This armour makes it incredibly dominant, and it also possesses incredible speed, which makes it one of the scariest creatures. Unless you poison them with spore puffs. Just like the miniature rose from Hunter x Hunter. Yeah, I bet you didn't expect the Hunter x Hunter reference. King vultures are the kings of the food chain. They are much bigger vultures armed with harpoon guns, which makes them much more deadly. Some nimble creatures were able to dodge a regular vulture's bite, but the chances of them dodging a high-velocity harpoon is less likely, to say the least. Now what's interesting is the king vulture is actually very good against red centipedes, but not as effective against red lizards. So I believe the red lizards, red centipedes, and king vultures are all kind of interchangeable. It's kind of like a weird game of rock, paper, scissors. I personally rank the king vulture higher, as they have much more mobility than the other two. The spiky spearmaster is next, and this messenger has a very high ranking. I believe Spearmaster is a bit like Batman from the DC universe, where with enough prep time it can kill basically anything, since it has access to infinite spears, higher spear damage, and the ability to dual wield spears, basically giving it the ability to machine gun spears at anything that moves, which will demolish most creatures. Since Spearmaster is an abomination of a purposed slug cat, they will actually siphon nutrients from creatures they hit with these spears, meaning they receive nutrients if they just go crazy on a bunch of creatures. Spearmaster can also hibernate twice in a row without requiring additional food pips. This probably gives it the most efficient diet we've seen in the Rainworld universe, aside from maybe a Catnip Beast or whatever. Spearmaster also canonically walks from 7 red suns to Pebbles and back, which Moon infers to be basically impossible for the average slug cat. And the crazy thing is, Spearmaster's not even the best slug cat on this ranking yet. Miros vultures are a Miros bird mixed with a vulture, with an added explosive device. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory to see why they're an apex predator. They literally feed on other vultures, that's how scary they are. Brother Longlegs, the first member of the rot family, has made its way onto the rankings. Although they're blind and deaf, they have a bottomless stomach that can absorb most creatures. They are also highly resistant to normal damage, with explosives being the only thing to be able to take them out easily. Which basically means only scavengers and slug cats can have a chance at killing this thing. Daddy Longlegs are literally the brother Longlegs but worse, with the ability to sense creatures by hearing them, making them a much more deadly threat. And they are much larger and more resistant to non-explosive attacks. The Outlaw Artificer is next. Everyone's favourite pyrokinetic slug cat. It has a myriad of explosive abilities that makes it very dangerous. First of all, it's carnivorous and has buffed spear damage. On top of that, it can maul stunned creatures to deal damage without a spear, which makes this slug cat already better than Hunter. Its explosive powers let it perform a rocket jump, which is a double jump but with a ton of velocity, giving it the most versatile movement ability out of any of the slug cats. It can also use this explosive power to release a parry, which is capable of stunning almost every creature in the game. Now this is an alive red lizard, dead. Well, not anymore, it's dead now. Oh, I'm gonna have to leave that voice crack in, that sucked. Its explosive power also lets it craft explosive spears and bombs, which makes it capable of killing Brother and Daddy Longlegs very easily, as well as every other creature as well. That's not all, it's also completely immune to explosives, at least damage-wise, and can survive incredibly lethal acid in garbage wastes. The Artificer could also absorb karma from dead scavengers temporarily. I'm not even sure how it can do that, like there's no lore explanation, it can just do that. In fact, the whole reason that Artificer is as strong as it is due to the acids of garbage wastes. Like, what the fuck does that mean? That might be the worst lore explanation, like, ever given in this game. Like, ooh, the green microbial waters gave me superpowers. Like, what the— this is not like fucking Spider-Man, is it? Okay, Artificer ran over. It is definitely a very powerful creature in Rainworld. Maybe it's a bit like Gourmand, where the Artificer's campaign is told from, like, the scavenger's point of view, where the Artificer is like a massive demon. That might be a bit more of a fun explanation rather than, oh, the acid gave me explosive powers. The Hunter Longlegs is next, which is Hunter's reanimated corpse, now filled with rot cysts. Even though it's deaf like a Brother Longlegs, it is actually immune to explosives, unlike Daddy Longlegs, which makes me rank it higher. It can also terrorize more of the ecosystem, since it can roam outside of 5 Pebbles' superstructure, as well as the depths of garbage wastes. Like, this thing can begin munching cyan lizards in Sky Islands, if Hunter died in Sky Islands. Grandfather Longlegs or Terror Longlegs are next, and these are basically just the immortal versions of Daddy Longlegs. Being able to hear better, have longer tendrils and are bigger, and of course an immunity to explosions. Reindeer are next, and finally I can say this again, this is a bit of a weird one. Their sheer size means that things just don't attack it, meaning they are a very chill creature. Even though they are mortal, they have an incredibly high amount of health, and their spindly long legs protect them from any ground creatures trying to munch them. Now the only thing that can take out a deer reasonably is worm grass, but we'll get to that higher on the ranking. Now just like the deer, the garbage worms are another weird one. They are nigh indestructible, and will get mad if you attack them. I rank them this high because of their indestructibility, but also they seem like a purposed organism that hasn't evolved much since their original design. This likely means they're very efficient at their jobs, which is probably garbage filtering, and they likely have a very efficient respiration system. It seems they're doing a poor job as garbage waste is full of garbage, but it has been ages since the last global ascension, so they haven't been paid a wage since. The Depths Guardians are very interesting creatures. There's a chance they're not even created by the civilization we know that built the Iterators. They are impervious to damage, you might notice a little theme here, and have gravity-altering attacks, where they slam the unworthy into the ground. The Leviathan is the biggest dog in Rainworld. I'd say it's at the apex of the Rainworld food chain, being able to eat anything with its hydraulic bite. It is also impervious to most forms of damage. However, there is one type of damage the Leviathans can't tank, and that is Singularity Bombs. Inv is equipped with eggs that can deal the same damage as a Singularity Bomb, meaning Inv can demolish any creature below itself on the list. The same can be said for the Legend variant of Gourmand, basically the retelling of Gourmand we play in the campaign. This version has access to Singularity Bombs and Fire Eggs, which I don't even know how it gets a hold of. It can also use its weight to deal massive damage to enemies, which surprisingly no other creature can do. But yeah, Legend Gourmand is kind of like a god in the Rainworld universe, but the whole thing is a fabrication by the idiot Slugcat tribe. The Deadly Wormgrass is next, the ultimate apex predator, capable of just eating anything, it's very hungry. It is impervious to any damage, with the only counter being Gooieducks, or being a green or caramel lizard. You can also hitch a ride on the deers to avoid the hungry tendrils altogether. Next is the Iterator Puppet, not to be confused with the Iterator itself. This is the little hand puppet we associate with the Iterators. I'm not sure of the extent of the power this puppet holds, but they likely have very good processing power, as Moon is still intelligent even though she's disconnected from the rest of herself. They are also impervious to outside damage. Even if they do die, there is a couple ways to resuscitate them, which we see happen to Moon in Hunter's campaign. I guess Sliver of Straw is a bit higher than the other Iterator puppets, as they have cool beam attacks, so they get extra points. Scavengers as a group are next. This means the whole civilization of scavengers. Scavengers are very intelligent, being able to craft explosives, and enjoy painting art on various walls. They're also able to harvest the skulls from reindeers, but it is unknown if they actively hunt them, or collect the skulls when they die from other causes. In Artificer's campaign, they're capable of excavating the top of pebbles, and discovering powerful weaponry in the form of thunder spears, and weaponized mass refraction cells in the form of singularity grenades. They're also capable of building rudimentary structures out of metal, like the Scavenger King's throne. So as a collective, they are the most powerful civilization still alive in Rainworld. Void Spawn are next, and these haunting fellas are this high in the list for one reason. They seem to be a form of spectre, meaning they're not even on the physical plane the other creatures inhabit. That means they're impervious to damage, and they all seem to possess astral knowledge, being able to guide Slugcat to its next objective. Sothanthiel, Artificer's Citizen ID drone, is next, and this is kind of a meme pick, but it can float through walls, and it doesn't seem to need to recharge. Also, it's impervious to damage. I think that's my new catchphrase. And the same can be said for the Chieftain Scavenger drone, which would rank slightly higher as it can detect threats to the king. Ascended Saint is next, and this mean green bean is out for revenge, now having the ability to fly and ascend basically every creature. Its diet is still vegetarian though, which is kinda lame. The Rot is next as a concept. It is able to overwhelm 5 pebbles and mortally wound him. However, the Rot was his own fault, so maybe other cases of the Rot are less severe. Since it is a cancerous mass, the Rot will die out once its host dies. This makes non-iterator cases of the Rot, if they do exist, not very dangerous. We see this in the Hunter Longlegs, as it's only available on Gourmand and disappears during Survivor's time. Iterators as a whole are next, and these are the supercomputers we all know and love. They are massively intelligent due to their computing power, and have actual cities built upon them because they're that big. They are the ones responsible for the massive bone-crushing rains that plague the landscapes, so they're kind of the apex predator in a sense, as they basically shape the entire ecosystem of Rainworld. Echoes are next, and just like Void Spawn, these fellas are spectral. They have some sort of sentience and are able to pacify other creatures, meaning they're actually pretty powerful, and Saint can't even ascend them. They are also capable of increasing karma, which only iterators can do. Next is the Ancients, the ones who built the iterators and basically built the entire world, aside from the temples in the depths. There are a species like us humans, I'm assuming you're all humans watching this, who discovered the void fluid, and so revolutionized the mass refraction method, which led to crazy science and the ability to purpose organisms, giving them full control of the natural world. In fact, the civilization was so powerful, they made the active choice to go extinct, like the only thing that burdened them was the cycle itself and living. Finally, we have the top spot in the ranking. Which creature have I not talked about yet? You have 5 seconds to guess. It's the Void Worm! Whoa! Now they're the top spot because we don't even know what they are. They're that elusive. I have 2 theories about them that give them this spot. Firstly, that they are tangible and live at the bottom of the Void Sea, meaning they're able to withstand the highly corrosive void fluid, likely for their entire existence. Bearing in mind that the reactions caused by this stuff is more powerful than nuclear fission. That basically hands them #1 spot if they're able to survive in that. My second theory is that they're above the cycle itself, and inhabit some sort of weird void paradise, or at least guard it. This theory also gives them #1 spot, as no other creature is able to naturally be above the cycle. My general conclusion is that void worms are some sort of eldritch being that we can't even begin to comprehend. And since we can't comprehend it, it's #1. Anyway, that is the full ranking. There is definitely going to be some disagreements and mistakes I've made on this list, so feel free to shout at me in the comments. Anyway, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye!